Um, we're now going to move into an important topic for all athletes, and this is something that I'm now starting to put more concentration into, but it's something that a lot of athletes face, and that's transitioning out of their sport and into the real world or into the corporate world, and a career that they can do for the next 30, 40 years. You uh, started a bit of coaching in the NBL. You said you had the assistant role with the Breakers. Then you started coaching a bit more, player coaching with the NBL teams as well. But then also you started uh, following or shadowing the general manager at the Breakers. What was, how did that kind of come about, and were you told to do that, or was that something you just kind of did yourself?
I got to a bit of a crossroad where I knew I was coming close to the end of my career, probably about 3 years out before I was going to retire. And I kind of was thinking, what am I going to do when I retire? Which path am I going to go down? And my heart was telling me, go down the coaching path. With your basketball IQ, and everyone was saying to me, oh, you'll be a great coach one day. You should
Mm,
do that. And I'd already done a little bit at Rosmini and done a bit with the Tall Blacks in the assistant coaching role. And was kind of like that was a natural progression, was to go down that path. But I've always understood the commercial side of the sport, and so I've got great relationships with people that have been sponsors or corporate ticket holders or season ticket holders that I've always taken time after games to speak to and things like that. So I've developed a network of, I guess, people that I could go and talk to and things like that if I needed things from. So I remember sitting down with Paul Blackwell, who's the owner of the Breakers, one day, and he said to me, in the future, do you want to be GM of the Breakers, or do you want to be head coach of the Breakers one day? What's kind of your pathway you want to take? And I said, well, my heart's telling me go to coaching, but my head's telling me you've got 4 children at home. You
mm,
should probably think about going down the safe route, which is having a job that can translate into any job. Whereas coaching, you go down a coaching, I guess, rabbit hole that you can only coach basketball. It's not like you just change to rugby or anything like that.
mm,
Whereas being a general manager of a team, you can transfer that to other codes and other jobs. So I decided that I would go down the kind of route to be general manager. And so at the time the club was struggling selling corporate hospitality and things. So while I was still playing, they said, well, why don't you give it a go? We'll pay you some commission and go out there and sell some corporate tables and see how you go. So I got on the phone and rang people that I knew and said, come and support me, like
mm,
come and watch me play and, buy a table and blah, blah, blah. And so I sold a few tables that year and they said, oh, that went well. Do you want to have a go at it next year? But maybe, sell here's some of our small sponsorship packages, see if you can sell some of them. So I went and sold a few of them and that kind of went well. And then when the year I knew I was retiring, I kind of talked about what would life would be after with Richard Clark, the general manager. And he said, well, you've done a good job of this commercial space. Do you want to come on board as the corporate sales manager and sell hospitality and sponsorship? And I said, oh, I'd love to. So kind of
mm,
finished my career and went straight into the office and started selling hospitality. And because my name is still relevant from being a player, the door was always open to come and have a coffee with someone. And then I had to close the door by selling to them something that they didn't necessarily want, but I would try and sell them that they needed it, and
mm,
sorry, didn't necessarily need, but I would try and make them want it by selling with passion. And I didn't have any skill. I hadn't done any courses about selling. It was just purely selling on passion and being able to talk about the games and then what it's like being there and, the players and all the sorts. So I started just selling things that way. And I did that for a couple of years, and then they promoted me to the commercial manager. So I kind of ran all the marketing team and everything. And then Richard Clark took up a role with the new Brisbane team that was starting up, and the general manager role became available. And I went to the board and said, I'd like to apply for the role. And they kind of said, look, we're not sure you're quite ready. And I said, well, I think I am. And so they said, well, come and do a presentation to us. And on Christmas Eve, I went and did
mm,
a promotion, a proposal to them, and put it in front of them and talked about what I saw that I could do as GM, and they liked it and decided that they would put me in the role and put some support around me. And so the chairman at the time, Ant Carter, was kind of like my mentor, and so I kind of would bounce ideas off him, and he would help me with certain things, and certainly help me grow into becoming a good GM for the team. So yeah, that was kind of what I did, and it was kind of a very smooth transition. I guess one of the few players that's been able to transition pretty smoothly into a off court role.
Mm. Yeah, it's I guess it's a mixture of kind of being aware of those opportunities, but then also taking them and excuse the pun, follow through on those uh,
Yeah.
opportunities as well. What do you think is the hardest part about career transitioning?
I think the hardest part, I mean, you've been an athlete for a long time, is knowing what you want to do. Like I honestly, I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was
Mm,
like I'm 37 years old starting my career, like it's like far out. So
mm,
you always feel like an imposter in the room. Like you feel like even I would sit in meetings and there were people using jargon I'd never heard of, and I'd get out of
mm,
the meeting and I'd Google on my phone what they were talking about because I was too embarrassed to say that I didn't know what it meant,
yeah.
and things like that. So you feel like an imposter because you know every jargon on a basketball court and every terminology and things like that, but you get in the corporate world and it's all completely new to you. And so being able to understand and get an understanding of the dynamics of an office is quite daunting, and you feel like you have to work extra hard to get the people that it's their normal job get their buy-in, that you are one of
Mm,
them now, and you're not just a dumb basketball player that's come off the court and been given a job because you're part of the organization, so
yeah.
you feel like you always have to prove yourself. So that takes a few years to wear off, and then you realize you're part of the furniture.
Mm, mm. What's some transferable skills you think athletes have, and what advice would you have for current athletes who are now, starting to think about careers after sport?
Yeah, I think the most transferable thing is your work ethic, because I believe to be an athlete at the top level of your game, you have to have a work ethic and you have to be a hard worker and
Mm,
really diligent in what you do. And I think it's the same if you can transfer those skills over into business, you'll be successful because hard work gets you a lot of places that that talent necessarily won't take you. So I think hard work and work ethic is one, but I also think athletes are good goal setters and they're focused and they're driven. And I think
mm,
that's something that I've tried to take into the work environment, is staying focused and motivated and driven, and being that every day, not getting despondent. And in sales, when you go in sales, you get told no all the time, and it's so incredibly frustrating. You have a whole day where everyone has told you no, and it's like, can someone just give me a sale so I can feel like I've got a. Whereas in basketball, you get a basket, you feel good, and it's an
mm,
instant gratification. Whereas in the corporate world, it's not always like that. So the other thing I would say is, in basketball, you kind of get taught to don't go too high and don't get too low, kind of. But in the corporate world, you need to celebrate your success, because it's not always about having a financial win at the end of the year. You've got to celebrate bringing a new client on or something good happening, because you can't be determined by wins and losses. So you've got to celebrate everyday successes, and that keeps you going and keeps you motivated.
mm. And what about I guess working with people who haven't been athletes as well, and you've got this hard working mentality and this teamwork environment, and they're like, well, look, Dylan, we haven't been on a basketball team, we don't know what being under pressure and yada yada yada. How, how did you find moving to a different type of team?
Yeah, you can't go around slapping people on the ass like you can on the court. I learned that pretty quickly. No, no seriousness. I didn't do that, by the way. I
We'll take
think
that
the
now.
biggest thing, the biggest thing is understanding that you may be programmed differently, but it's about setting a culture of hardworking culture. I think when I got in the office at the Breakers, I didn't realize how hard they worked. I didn't appreciate the work that they did, because when you're on the court, you focus on what you need to do.
Mm,
So I got a really good understanding of how hard the office actually works, and they work incredibly hard,
mm,
and long hours as well. That the players have short hours compared to the office workers' long hours, and it's probably underappreciated in a sporting environment by the players. But certainly, people have the work ethic. It's just be able to create a culture that people really want to continue to work hard for you.
mm, mm.